People hear that term unlawful detainer and they're thinking, what is that, Caleb? And so what would be the typical situation where you're applying an unlawful detainer to?
Well, there's two scenarios I see most often, Tom. One is significant others that are unmarried living together, and the other is an adult child still living at the home with the parents. And what an unlawful detainer is it's essentially an eviction where there's actually not a lease agreement in place.
And so the bottom line is that if you're living with a boyfriend and a girlfriend, let's just say it's a boyfriend's home and the girlfriend's living there and everything's beautiful and wonderful, but someday things are not so great between them and the boyfriend wants the girlfriend out. Let's just say she's never paid rent. They just had a relationship together. He can't just change the locks on her. He's got to go through this unlawful detainer process.
That's right, Tom. You have to file the unlawful detainer lawsuit.
And what is the process for that? It's, timing wise and what gets filed.
Right. Well, you don't need to give the person any notice. You can just go ahead and file the suit in an unlawful detainer situation. You get what's called summary procedure with that, just like you get with an eviction. So once they're served the lawsuit papers, they get 5 days to file a response, and you go from there. It can take in between 2 to 4 months to get this unlawful detainer done because you really don't get many defaults like you would in an eviction.
Caleb, when people evict a tenant that's paying rent, usually they're in a separate dwelling, a separate house or something, and the landlord does not have to see the tenant on a daily basis. Here we're talking about you're living with somebody that you're under the process of evicting. I'm sure that must be quite uncomfortable for some clients.
It's very uncomfortable, Tom. I've had my clients have to get domestic violence injunctions before, and that's something you can do if the situation escalates and there's some physical violence. You can go to the courthouse and get that injunction, and the police are going to show up and basically make somebody leave for at least a temporary duration if that happens.
So if let's do reverse roles here. Let's say the home belongs to the girl and the boy's been living there. He does not own the home. He's living there with her, and one day they break up, and she says, I want you out of here. If there is some kind of violence or threat by him, she can go get a restraining order, and that in and of itself will act, in a sense, like a very quick eviction, you might say.
That's true, but you still have to follow through with the unlawful detainer because that doesn't necessarily terminate the residence as that person's primary residence. It just prevents the contact for the duration of the restraining order.